Jerry Ferrara, the new co-host of Throwbacks with Matt Leinart and Jerry Ferrara, a podcast. First episode drops 2 days from now on Thursday. You also know Jerry from Think Like a Man, Power, and of course, one of my favorite shows of all time, Entourage, where he starred as Turtle. Jerry, thank you for taking the time to join us here. There you go. We got you on video as well for everybody that is paying attention on our YouTube live stream. We'll start with this. Was this intentionally to get like the two kings of LA from 2005 on a pod? Because even though you come from different worlds, you and Matt Leinart have to have kind of some unique experiences around that time.
We do. We have a lot of unique experiences, and we have a lot of unique overlap, which you wouldn't necessarily think, because I've never played college quarterback. I've never won a Heisman. I've never played in the NFL. But yeah, you know, when Entourage started back in 2004, Matt was winning a Heisman and going on to the NFL draft and doing some great things. We were running around in the same places, but we never actually knew each other back then. We could have easily been friends, and now you cut to 20 years later, and we're doing this show together. And the overlap, even though I am a New Yorker, though, I do my teams I'm aligned with all the New York teams, but I lived in LA for 20 years. So, but yeah, there's a lot of fun overlap with Matt. He's a great dude.
One of my questions was going to be, why weren't Matt and Reggie Bush on the show? Because it feels like in the fictional world, they would have been at the same clubs and everything as Vince and the crew. Yeah,
I think Matt, I said this, I knew this show would be good because Matt could have easily, and Reggie could have easily had cameos on Entourage back in the day, like without a problem. So I just think it was, they were still in college. They were entering the NFL draft. That's probably why we didn't really have them on. But look, there's always talk of a reboot. And if there is, I'm sure Matt's going to hit me up to be in the reboot.
Jerry Ferrara, Throwbacks with Matt Leinart and Jerry Ferrara podcast drops on Thursday. I'm sure reboots is something you get asked about nonstop. So I'm going to see if you can't get maybe Matt involved or someone else that played college football. Could it be like a reboot in spirit where it's around an athlete rather than a movie star with the NIL world and the parties? I mean, the glitz is becoming pretty darn similar.
Listen, I think that's a great call. I've always said a true reboot, almost, I don't know if anyone's familiar with like the show Cobra Kai, which was the Karate Kid reboot, where they really took it back to a whole new group of kids. I think if you really were to reboot Entourage, you do have to come up with a new cast. Maybe we could be the resident old heads who pop in and give wise words of advice, And I do think, look, it's very hard to do a show like that around a movie star anymore because people don't really turn out to see movies in the same way they once did. But to do it on an athlete now with NIL, I think that's a great call. You might even just become a producer, my guy.
I'm with it. I'm open. I played college football. I have some stories. I'll throw them at you guys.
I'm sure.
Speaking of, and I think this podcast is an interesting dynamic because I was in college with the teammates when Entourage was at its peak. We'd gather every Sunday, right? You'd cheer and all this. We treated it like a sporting event. Do you get the sense that people almost open up, like athletes open up more to you, maybe even than Matt? Because like if I got all my buddies together, we would want to brag about like our college stories to you more so than probably anyone else because we want, for lack of a better term, Turtle to think our college experience was cool.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, Tim. I've often tried to figure this out, but for whatever reason, Entourage really rang true and related to athletes. Even like if you look at some of the cameos, we had so many athletes over the years, more so than actors or even musicians or anything like that. And yeah, it's real. Like I've been in weird situations where I've met an athlete I admired or I respected. It just happened, a few months back with Zion Williamson. I was at a Knicks game, and at the end of the game, he came up to me, and I didn't even know he knew who I was. So, and he was talking that he was a fan of Entourage and stuff like that. So I don't know what it is. Maybe because athletes do identify with being put in an extraordinary scenario and having that group around you that you could trust to help kind of navigate this crazy world of extremes that they all have. But yeah, I don't know. It's a unique thing, and I think focusing on an athlete would be cool.
See, we're here in the Triangle in North Carolina, so Duke and Zion are well known. Your character famously is a big sneakerhead. Are you into that world? And if not, or if you are, Zion would be somebody. He comes up, hey, big fan. Well, can you get me a pair of? Like, have you used your connections at all to get some gear?
So I was at one point a pretty big sneakerhead, even before Entourage. I just didn't really have the money to support the habit back then. And then, Entourage comes around. That's something I'm pretty proud of. The show did do some things that weren't really shown on television before, like shoe culture and waiting online overnight like it's the opening of Star Wars for a limited drop. That we did that back in 2007. Now it's commonplace. We all know that, or we're really just doing it online now. So, I've definitely gotten some cool free sneakers from athletes over the years. I got some cool Dame Lillards. I got some KDs, got some PG-30. But yeah, like Zion, I'm going to hit him up for some shoes. I don't know if I'll get him, but I'm going to hit him up for it.
Is that how it works, though? You go to a game and then all of a sudden you're boys with these guys?
I wouldn't say boys. I would say, I've had the chance, like, again, one of my greatest accomplishments is I'm a huge Knicks fan. So every now and then I get to go to some games and sit courtside, which I do not take lightly and will never, ever just get used to it. It's still a dream because I used to sit up by the lights when I was a kid. So I can't say every player that comes in, but, getting dapped up from one of your favorite NBA players before and after a game is just like, it's the coolest thing ever, and I shouldn't be in this scenario.
Jerry Ferrara, check out his podcast, Throwbacks with Matt Leinart and Jerry Ferrara, drops this Thursday. You're first of all, and this is where my Entourage nerddom comes out. Do you actually have the Fukijamas?
I do. I usually keep them locked up in the safe, but because we're taping our first show tomorrow, and Leinart's going to have his Heisman situated in the foreground because you can watch the show on YouTube as well. Besides my DirecTV Beach Ball MVP award, I need something to put in my foreground. So I'm going to bust out the Fukijamas on air because I have to compete with Matt's Heisman. And I still don't think that's a proper comparison, but it's all I got.
It's close, and to some, yours will be a bigger flex than his, to a certain corner of the internet. You brought up Zion. We'll bring up another Duke guy here, and then we'll let you go. Just because I know you're a big New York guy. I believe a Giants fan. Do I have that right?
All right, huge Giants fan. Yeah.
Another Duke guy, Daniel Jones. Are we in? Are we out? What are we looking at with your quarterback?
It's funny. No one in New York likes to talk about Danny Dimes.
Well, they like to yell about Danny Dimes.
So my fandom with Danny Dimes is, when he was drafted, I didn't, all of New York kind of jumped to this like, what? Why are you taking this guy here? And look, I do agree they maybe reached early because he probably could have been available one pick later in the first round. We had 2 first-round picks, but I've always been in. I love the skill set. I love what he brings. I think he's the right size and speed and athleticism. Does he have the arm I always thought he did? I think that he was in such a bad situation last year between playing with that bad offensive line, getting banged up and playing through injury, not really having a true number one receiver. I think the cause of concern is justified. I do think all family business with Danny Dimes will be settled this year, obviously. We're either going to know by week 8 if he's the guy or he's not. And I'm betting he's the guy. If I have to bet on it, I'm betting that he's the quarterback of the Giants going forward after this season.
So I assume based on that answer, right, saying he doesn't have the number one wide receiver, Malik Neighbors is the dude?
Yes. I think he is the dude. Of course, with that is going to come a lot of attention. He's going to be drawing maybe some doubles, and there's going to be some interesting NFL coverages drawn up for him. But yeah, I think they have a target now that's a real threat. And, I do think they put all their money, which would have probably been the money they were offering Saquon, into the offensive line. Hopefully they could just keep the guy upright, but there will be no excuses left if this doesn't work out for Daniel Jones this year. Then you can't say you don't have a number one receiver. You can't say they didn't put money into the line. You can't really say there's no more excuses at this point.
Jerry, before we let you go ahead and let everybody know what they're getting with Throwbacks, right? You and Matt Leinart on a podcast, drops everywhere Thursday. I assume it can be found everywhere podcasts can be found and on all the different apps. We know there's a billion of them. What do you guys bring to the table?
Yes, we're going to be there for you every Thursday morning. It's debuting this Thursday, September 5th. And what you're getting with us is, well, number one, I always say this. I'm in my 40s. I have 2 little kids. It gets a little harder as you get older to make friends. Not that you don't want to, but whether you're too busy or your circle's closed. it is what it is. But Matt, who I could have known 20 years ago, on this show is fastly becoming one of my good friends. We're getting to know each other on the air in a unique way. I don't know everything about him, and he doesn't know everything about me. And it's coming out through sports, which is one of the best ways to make a friendship, in my opinion. And then after that, look, you're going to get the sports talk. He's more of the X's and O's. I'm a little more of the narrative storyline guy. I'm a storyteller. I'll do 10 minutes on why I think Jim Harbaugh set up the Chargers getting trapped in an elevator. That's a little more my speed. And then we're going to have great guests. We have a really great guest lined up for episode 1. They asked me not to say just yet because I think they're going to promote it their own way. But I think between Matt and I, we have a pretty good contact list of guests that we could come through the show.
Can you give us a hint? Is it from the Hollywood world or the sports world?
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's from the Hollywood world, but it's a he. He's a huge sports fan, and I didn't get this guest. Matt got this guest. Hollywood's own Matt Leinart lined up this guest. So it wasn't even me. I didn't even have to do the Hollywood thing. So I'll go get the athlete next week.
There it is. Jerry, we appreciate you for taking the time. Good luck with the pod, and hopefully we're able to do this again soon.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's definitely check back in as more sports occur, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Of course.